understand what is really taking place. We were never good parents. It doesn't matter the nature of the child. Once you do what you're supposed to, the child will come out a particular way. Nope. Children in their early teens cussing and, basically making their own decisions and doing what they want, you know what I mean? But they don't have what's taking place here because that's a completely different environment.
Right. Hey, welcome back. It's the Alternative Perspectives podcast, the App 868. And we are here again. Thanks again for once you reach this far. We thank you anyway. You don't start it. You click it. Hey, big up you. You're in charge. Now, low I'm in the building.
Jude.
Yeah, and we're here again another week, as consistent as we could be. You know?
Yeah.
Each and every time. A little more consistent, a little more dedicated than a lot of people. Especially when it comes to the public sector. Well, I've been real honest with you. I was going to start this episode by saying Trinidad and Tobago, dog. Right? Fuck this country, fuck it. Right? That's how I was going to start this episode.
Alright. We already started that way.
Right. But then I say, boy, the backlash, boy. You really want to do the backlash from that? And then I was like, I don't know. But anyhow.
You don't do the backlash of what I was saying?
Yeah.
If it'll be a lot. Oh, yeah, true.
Yeah. Right?
Fake patriotism will come out. Right?
Exactly. Right? And of course, I mean, there are a lot of people who patriotic and love here because they love the slackness of this place now, boy. You understand what I'm saying? They love the fact that if rain fall too hard and they don't go to work, that they could, they could tell the boss.
Well, if rain fall too hard, they're not expected to go to work.
Right, yeah. You understand what I'm saying?
They're like that.
It's people like that. People say, dog, if you're going to next week, you have to work hard, Like, so that's the point. That's not why we just go to work. We just go to work hard, right? Yeah. But that's some people find out that's strange.
That's onerous.
You want to work hard?
Yeah.
You understand?
Yeah, that's onerous.
But all I have to say, so my ID card has expired, and I was trying to get an appointment online, and there are no available appointments for this. We call it district, this area, wherever you call it, right? So it had up till November, and there are no available appointments up to November. All right, cool. Now, might I add, a lot of places not taking the expired ID card. I don't know if this was have some sort of concession in place for it. I mean, it had earlier on, but I don't like it probably done. Yeah. And cool. I mean,
it was up to March this year.
Right. So, I mean, I ain't trying to rant and rave too much as yet.
I used my expired ID as identification maybe 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
And my ID has been expired since last year.
All right. So, I went 2 places and determined, right? If I have an X for my ID or whatever the case may be, cool.
I was at the hospital, by the way.
Oh, okay. Right, yeah. All right. Well, I know they must have more lenient people.
I didn't even it's only after I went through the process I realized, oh shit, I handed them an ID card which is expired, not my driver's permit, which is still valid now. So it's only afterwards I realized, but I didn't think about it when I was handing it.
Right. Now, pressing forward, actually, I tried to use that in the blank web source.
Oh, okay.
You understand what I'm saying? Yeah. Web source. Anyhow. And some else. But I can't remember what the next place is now, but anyway, because my own expired since last year too. So they had this drive where they go from place to place, or whatever the case may be, renewing ID cards, or whatever the case may be. So they had it in Bonaire Plaza for people who live Arima and Piaco, apparently, just itemize those two areas. Jigger, I reached down there after 11 Saturday. That it's Saturday and Sunday from 9 to 5 p.m. So I reached down there about 11 and after 11. And now why I didn't go 9 o'clock is because I say, the old people who just want to run out, they will run out early. So I'll give them some time, right? Now I probably take a chain from there when they had the drive in Locketa with the licensing thing. When they were renewing license in permits actually, right, in the mobile unit thing, and we went out there must be about 11 o'clock. Remember when they come in? And it was smooth now. So I said, I would do the same thing. So yeah, reach Bonaire, no freaking numbers and all the numbers done. But if you see chaos by the place, I was like, Jesus Christ. It's free food getting out here. You understand what I'm saying? Also,
Well, you say that on appointments, so
Right.
that's why.
So, well, boy, so then who had them appointments? It's like, all them people, the ID card.
Well, remember, it was a very long time that the ID card office was, either not operational at all or operating at a,
Minimal.
a very minimal capacity. So there would have been quite a number of people who would have been unable to do what they had to do. And, for you and I, we wouldn't have it wouldn't have occurred to us till now because, we have other forms of ID, so on, but for.
Yeah, but I mean,
folks,
I acknowledge that there are people who, that's the only form of ID they have. There are some people who never went for a passport.
Yep.
And there are some people who
they don't drive, so they don't want to drive. They don't need a driver's permit.
So that's the only form of ID when they want to cash it. Because that real old people too. That real old people.
Yeah. I would expect that.
You right? Mm-hmm. And I say, okay, well, boy, I will come back the next day. So I went and do my hustle the Sunday morning. Reach up about 12 o'clock. Same thing. No more numbers.
Yeah. Same pressure.
Please, ram out again.
Right.
What the fuck is going on? Mm-hmm. I don't know how we can rectify this yet. And if it can be rectified, then do the same thing what they do and say, you're going on now, boy. All you go get applied with all your ID card until December with your expired ID card or something.
I remember, I couldn't confirm this, but someone that I knew who works at the bank told me, and I don't know how true it is, and I'm not calling any names of anybody, so I'm not feeling weird putting this out there, but they were telling me that I think the members of the Bankers Association in Trinidad and Tobago were kind of complaining about the constant extension of the grace period for the acceptance of expired IDs. They feel that is now going into the realm of security risk, and they unhappy about that.
And because people changing big changes.
Well, I mean, the ID card have an expiry date for a reason.
I understand, but I mean,
and it could also have legal ramifications because if you are presented with a valid form of ID, then you have a little bit more protection. If you have to face any liability for something, for giving out money from somebody's account, that in some dishonest transaction.
Right.
So it could be all of that, and they find that listen, this is, as I say, that's what I was told by somebody working in the bank. I don't know how true it is, but it could be that there are elements out there who are complaining because, like you say, WebSource found, listen, you could have made that home. You know what I mean? You could have and because it expired, that's more likely. So you didn't make a valid one.
Yeah, it's a half retard. So
you're going to make a valid one. You're going to make a expired one home. Yeah. And you look completely different from what's on the card. Yeah. So, if they could find a problem with that, then I don't feel it's implausible to think that.
And actually, the second one was Scotiabank. The second place was
right.
When I was fighting up with my with the credit card thing now, when I was trying to sort out that, and I went and I asked for ID and I just pushed that up. Because to be honest, that I have my driver's license and the thing that's flipped with the clear case now. So to take it all the way something, it's kind of hard
problematic,
now. So as you ask the ID, I just slip the ID card and hand them it, and the second place was the bank.
Right. So I would think that the bank, because they're dealing with money, they would begin to they would be the ones to kind of be like, hey, or they sort this out. And people with valid IDs.
Well, the thing is, then Dr. Rowley and them and whoever, well, not him directly, but he needs to tell the people who on them who just deal with them thing.
Ministry of Public Administration, I think that would be
right. Well, whoever in charge of that, well, let's sort out on our dog. Find out whether it had to be every weekend or they doing this thing every weekend somewhere.
Well, I think the issue is that they probably would want to do that, but they are trying to clear a backlog, but somebody still has to do it. So you're still working with the staff that was the complementer staff that was present pre-COVID,
right?
Dealing and who used to deal with
hire some people on temporary and how hard it go be thing because we're doing renewals, right? It's mainly for renewals. Right, all right, this still you, all right. I don't know where's that a check.
I'm not aware.
Right,
so,
thing this still you, all right, still living here, 9, living it, all right. Give me a former thing.
No, but I think it's the processing that will be the problem. Whatever is the I think that's where they'll have to beef up staff at the processing.
Well, boy, you're going on. I prefer do the interview, and it take me 3 months. Don't get me wrong, and it take me 3 months for me to get back the ID card, than me feeling, because right now I don't know how long it'll take me when I do the interview.
Right,
but at least let me do one part now, boy. Let me do something now, boy.
Oh, yeah.
Like, cause how we can get the simplest things right now, boy. ID, dog. ID cards. I mean, even the passport office getting a little
Canada
better.
is a big first world country, and they had problems
They're not getting
with
a
passports.
They're not getting a lot of things right now, to be honest.
No, but passports, bro.
Yeah, but remember they have all kind of they have ex-passport and thing now too, all kind of things.
Yeah,
so.
but the problem is they are first world country, and they can't get it act right with passports.
They
bro.
do, as I say, they don't seem to be getting a lot of things right now, Bridget.
Well, I agree.
Right?
I agree. But what I'm saying is,
don't look at they something weird over there right now, brother. Something weird over there. Them, right?
them different. They're different.
Yeah.
But apart from, there are a lot of things not going right, but they're not necessarily administrative things. You could feel that there's some craziness in terms of the decision making going on across there. But I would not have expected a country like Canada to be experiencing what's happening now, with essentially a travel shutdowns because people just could not get passports.
Right.
Citizens couldn't get
Right, so
get a passport.
Yeah, so I saw something going on with a guy who was supposed to get married.
Yeah,
and I think,
yeah.
right. Well, you see, the thing is, probably they move some of them stuff and had them checking people YouTube videos before it published, boy. You understand what I'm saying?
Or checking vaccine cards.
Right. You see, you understand?
Ensuring that the mandate's been adhered to.
And that is the problem, probably. The people who was doing this passport thing a few months ago were checking to see who was sending funds to the truckers.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying?
or monitoring your movements on the COVID tracking app.
Right. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, so
and remember the kind of short stuff.
We had our staff otherwise engaged too. They were giving out $1,500 checks.
Okay, it's our people getting $1,500 checks.
Well, there was one $1,500 check that we got in the beginning of the pandemic.
Oh, well, the thing is, I hear real people up and didn't get a check now. But.
Yeah, but
So is it that they were spending it?
the point is, we moved them from what they're normally doing, and it was all hands on deck, and that caused the backlog, and now they're trying to clear the backlog. That's the problem.
Well, boy, let's sort it out now. Just something as basic as ID, because I mean, if we can get that right to us, I don't see we getting plenty of little things right. I mean,
well, I mean, we don't need that as an example to know that we're not getting a lot of things right here. To be fair, I understand what you're saying, and it is frustrating. But I have a little sympathy for them in this instance because I could understand how the backlog could have, gotten overwhelming over the period of time. Now, obviously, the argument could be made, well, that is why greater effort should have been made to make sure things were even if it was at a 50% capacity, but that's neither here nor there now, right? The point is that was seen as a non-essential, and that's understandable. At this point in time, do we really need to be fighting on people for IDs? Cool. So you would have, pardoned that arm of the state. But so I understand essentially why this one exists. Now, if it was that we didn't have any pandemic and this was taking place, then it would be a little bit more infuriating.
Right.
But I could see how that backlog could have, run up on them quite quickly.
So, but back then, right? I mean, as I say, they might have been operating at 50% capacity. So why didn't get next billing? So far as family and no billing up on the side.
You see where you going?
So you understand? They could have got next billing and put and next 50% of the people to work in that billing.
I don't know, brother, man. They could have put them in the Malabar Stadium out in the open here.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah. They would have been safe.
Right? Because
6 feet apart.
Right.
Because
I mean, oh God, boy.
Yes,
boy.
I mean, it's frustrating.
And as I say, thank God I have my driver's license. Because that's too important. Well, no, website's not that important, but obviously, right? But something like the bank.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah,
if I only had one form ID and I fight him with this credit card thing, and no, we can't deal with you. You walking around with me?
You gotta talk to the manager, see what they're gonna do. See if a bank employee could ID you for whatever purpose.
Oh shit!
And
I know nobody in that one, yeah.
Well, I mean, having worked in the bank, I've seen that situation.
Yeah, I know, but they act people like,
worked around before. So, if it was push come to shove, it would have been, you would have found a way. It would have been pesky to keep doing it, like if you had to constantly go back to the bank over and over. But if it was for a one-time transaction, there probably would have been a way around it.
Right, but boy, try and work it out now, please.
Yeah,
Please. Right?
I could only imagine. I'm dreading the process of going to renew mine. I haven't even tried to get an appointment.
Exactly. I mean,
but I am still registered to vote in Port of Spain.
Okay.
So I would be by Scott House. So I don't know if that will make a difference if I'll be able to get through quickly.
But I've been hearing people saying some of the other areas is a bit easier. You're getting far appointments, but you're getting appointments. But you see, the thing is, if I have to vote, because remember I have never voted in my life. If I have to vote, I would like to vote up here, man.
No, honestly, obviously, first of all, so if you're going to try to change now for that, that's going to be even, that you might as well just sit down and wait for your appointment because that is going to be crazy because you have to go to the same people in order to get that changed officially anyway. So I wasn't suggesting that would be...
That is one of my major things, so I want to kind of change the address to up here, you know?
Right.
I want to vote in the Lokita Talparo.
Right, you want to make a difference.
Make a difference. Yeah, because, listen, other than I don't really trust them politicians and them, right? One of the major reasons I never really pushed the vote to in Borneo is because Borneo...
Don't make a difference.
Yeah, Borneo is one of the places that's beat up. Well, PNM just beat everybody real bad there now, boy.
Yeah. Well, I'm from Port of Spain, so, I mean...
Yeah.
I'm from Belmont, bro. So that's why I'm registered to vote anyway. So it makes... If it don't make no difference in Borneo, it's even worse in Belmont. So it don't make a difference.
So, but up here... This is one of the places where I think,
difference.
You know, I think a few different votes here could...
Why I feel like you're putting it all there for people to entice you. You want people to...
No.
Seduce you to come over on their side.
Well, what I would like... Listen, if part of we want to do... If you want to seduce me into voting, you can help me get back. You know, because I need to go and change. Yeah, and I need to go and change my address. I need to change the address. I can't help you. I can't vote for nobody. Yeah, if that sort out, you understand? So, I don't know. Work out something for me, huh?
That might be what is called those things again? Oh gosh, a quid pro quo. A quid pro quo. Yeah, you could put it out there. That way you want.
Well, I mean, I've been trying. You know, it's not for lack of trying. But anyhow, that is one thing. The next thing, as we talking about people getting it right, we only say, hey, you see all your parents, all they're not getting it right, all they're doing something wrong. What's going on? They need to try and get it right. The thing is, I read that story. Was there a follow-up to the initial story that I sent you?
Where they covered his statement?
Yeah, when they were opening the Sinclair police station.
No, I didn't see any follow-up story, no.
Okay. Because I think a lot of the things that was said in that story by Dr. Rowley, at the time it was said, I think that... I can understand what you're trying to say. And I'm not saying that it shouldn't be said. I just find the way it was said, at the time it was said, kind of make it seem, kind of put a little bit of guilt on the young men in the corner. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah. And knowing now that what has happened, all of the information has come out, he should be. Well, I mean, even before that statement, I remember he was making when he was asked to comment on the situation with respect. I think it was on the very day when the murders had taken place, murders and the police involved shootings. He was asked to comment, and he said that a lot of people are making the poor decision of choosing to engage with the police with the use of firearms now, and kind of suggesting that is what happened on the evening there. The afternoon or whenever it was. Yeah. And then it came out. So you kind of spoke out of turn then. Again, it would seem that he would have been speaking out of turn again with respect to kind of suggesting that the fellas and them went the wrong way. That's why they ended up where they were. Listen, I mean, I know he would probably be saying, well, even if I'm wrong in this instance, I'm not wrong in the vast majority of these instances. But I mean, apart from that, I am kind of... The reason why I sent you that article was because one of the things that kind of frustrates me is when this game politicians play where they promise to solve your problem and then when they can't solve your problem, they blame you, right? So when they're campaigning, they don't say, well, you and I will work hand in hand, and I will pass the laws, but you will have to do your duty as a parent. Da, 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 da. No, that is discussed, right? It's the last set wasn't keeping others safe. Bring me, I'll keep you safe. I will bring down crime. And then when you come and crime doesn't go down, all of a sudden, what do you want me to do? I could only...
And it starts from home. It starts in the community.
Right. But so I hate that tactic, right? But we've seen it forever, and it's not going to stop. But it's what I think in particular in this instance, I am starting to wonder, because what that has sparked is I've seen a lot of talk about, people, shouldn't be parents, and we should consider having people having requiring a license to become a parent or something. Now, that's old talk, right? That could never ever happen, right? But, well, I shouldn't say never ever.
Yeah, I know what to say because I could see that happening in China, so...
I could see it happening in Canada.
Yeah.
So I could see them...
That means the second China, right? No, that means,
I could see them getting involved in everything, every aspect of your life. And yes, to some extent, it did happen in China. Well, they didn't need a license to become a parent, but they were basically mandating how many children they could have.
And which could help as well, if you understand what I'm saying.
Right.
Because the less children you have,
right,
the better chance you have in minding them and seeing about them and giving them the attention they need.
They require, precisely. Right. So, I shouldn't say it will never happen, but the point is, the talk of parenting, because of his statement and other statements being made in the public domain, has sparked a discussion about parenting that I am beginning to wonder how useful it is at all. Because, they're blaming a lot of what is happening now on bad parenting. But I struggle to reconcile the idea that we have vastly poorer parents now than we had maybe 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago. I mean, how many of your elder relatives could attest to have had their first child in the teens?
In my family, boy, not much, dog.
Not
Big
much?
man thing, yeah. In the generation right before mine, yeah, boy, not much.
All right.
Not much.
Not in mine, right?
Okay.
Not in my family, right?
I'm not about none in the generation before mine. My mother's generation.
Yes.
My mother's siblings, none.
Right.
None of them, none of their teens.
Right. And when I say teens, I don't mean 13, 14 necessarily.
No,
the point is, they weren't...
All was in 20-something, 30-something.
All right, okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's a rarity for the older generation, right? In the environment I grew up in, not just my family, but others, there were people who had way more children than they needed to. You know what I mean? When you look at... Because the parents, if you want to say this generation is not being parented properly, who did they learn to parent from? Right? They would have learned from their parents. So clearly their parents didn't necessarily provide...
but to be fair, I think it's a twofold, because yes, some of them learn how to parent from their parents, and some of them kind of learn how not to parent from their parents. And when I say how not to parent, not positively either.
Right.
So some of them would have grew up getting relics and say, nah, I'm not going to do that to my child.
Yeah, but then was the relics good parenting?
Well, this is what I just saying. So, right? So it had that to be. There's some who get relics and then come and beat their children.
Right.
Then there's some who get relics and then say, well, nah, I'm not going to beat my child, and I'm going to let my child be more liberal or have way more freedom. And then that ended up in
but
chaos.
it's still a result of bad parenting.
Right,
They weren't parented well.
Yeah.
Because an abusive parent back then wasn't a good parent either.
I might beg to differ, boy. I'm not saying that people should be abusive, boy, but I think I can come out okay.
No, listen. The point I'm making is that what nobody. If I'm thinking objectively about this, I don't think there was ever any era when parenting was wonderful.
All right.
I think what has simply happened is that our society has developed in such a way that it has exposed that we have always been parenting badly.
All right. So I agree with that, because one of the things I see, or my issue with the like we say Trini bad, and I just use this to cover a wide set of music, right? Because apparently that difference between Trini bad and Cess and blah 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 blah, right?
Yeah.
But my issue with that type of music in this era was that, and this is why I think the parents then fell down a bit, right? And where I could see the difference a bit is that I think that music by itself is not bad for society, but that music along with poor parenting is a bad combination. Or that influence. I'm going to say that influence, not necessarily music, but the music and the lifestyle and the culture.
The culture that goes along with it.
Right? Yeah. Along with bad or poor parenting is definitely very, very harmful for society. Now, some people will try to tell you, well, but in our time, we grew up with Bounty Killer and we grew up with whoever. But to be fair, most sure that I know in my area, if your parents really didn't want to listen to that, it was more difficult for you to listen to one because, I mean, you would have to listen to it in a Walkman. And if my mother put on my Walkman or my Discman and hear something that, because, you know, she would have, what did I listen to? And there's anything that I wasn't supposed to be listening to, that she didn't like me listening to, she would have pelted to it. She would have pelted to it, dad, mash up everything, and yeah, forget that.
Yeah, well, parents do not know.
Right? Yeah, I know as much as long time.
But I don't think it was happening that much then either, because the music, that music was popular and everybody knew it.
Right.
I went to school and everybody was singing it. So you were hearing it.
But the thing is, it also didn't have such a cultural impact. That music then.
That's the point I'm making. And I was making this point to my wife just the other day. The difference between then and now is the physical environment, right? Back then, even if you were from a disadvantaged area, when you heard Bounty singing about killing people, you couldn't really appreciate what he was talking about. Yes, as I say, if you grew up in some of the more disadvantaged areas, yes, you knew about guns, or you would have seen people, and you would have, but it didn't feel real. So that's why, people could be going to all kind of different schools from all kind of different class of society and sing the music as if it was,
But I think it had plenty more to do with it too. Like, for instance, Bounty and them had way more range, way more versatility. So I think even though it had the killing songs, you didn't feel like Bounty's just a killer now, but he's a murderer. You understand? He's sing killing music. But I never had no time in my life thought Bounty was a murderer. At no time. Right? I think that, and then,
bro,
you honestly thought Bounty was a murderer?
Well, I didn't think he was a murderer, but the point I'm making is that he was known for Batman music.
Yeah, I know.
And as a matter of fact, when he sang girl tunes, men used to get vexed. You understand? Men used to be like, nah, leave that for Beanie Man. Your name is Bounty Killer.
You see, I think that is where you grew up, boy, dog boy.
But the point I'm making, the point, what I'm trying to drill down on is that, okay, that was the culture, that was the prevailing culture at the point in time. And even in a place where, there was violence taking place, it didn't feel real. Now, however, when people sing those songs, because, it sounds, you have a more visceral reaction to it because you're seeing killing every day. You're seeing it on your phones. So now it feels like them fellas not just singing about something. It's not like you're watching a movie with violence anymore. Now you feel like these people are singing real life. So what happened? What changed was the physical environment. Before, everybody was singing about gun, but gun was something you had to be in a zone to have a chance to see a man pull out and he ain't gonna let you touch it and he ain't gonna, what I'm saying? Now it's a different story. Now the physical environment has changed. When I was growing up, they had wayward parents, they had worthless parents who had wayward children. There were people who used to come out, leave the house when the August holidays was on, sometimes even when school on. They leave the house early in the morning, we go on block and lime and wherever. But we wasn't getting involved in unruly ISIS and you understand what I'm saying? But now, when if you are just as, I don't want to say worthless, but if you are just as liberal with your parenting, now the things that your child gets themselves involved in are completely different. So I don't think there's any vast difference in it, because you're talking about, people pitching away your mother listening to that, but that wasn't happening in my vicinity, I mean, okay, I shouldn't say that. There were one or two people, she mother real strict or he mother real strict or whatever, and them couldn't come outside and whatever. But, the music was getting to everyone. And them fellas were singing killing music. Bounty kill. I hate when people come with this, well, boy was different then. No, brother. no, brother,
when I say
man.
what was different, music or the environment?
The music. The argument.
The music, you're saying killing music, but it's a different, as I said, it was a different environment. And I think
Only the environment was different.
no, but I also think the minds of the youth then might have still been even obviously because the environment impacted the minds of these younger ones now. But back then, I believe that we weren't as easily influenced as younger people, especially by music. It might be influenced by peers, but not by music now.
Well, I mean, the main thing is you couldn't act it out because that didn't exist. It wasn't easy to act it out. It wasn't easy to get involved in a gang that had guns and a Dan go put a gun in your hand and you send you out there to do X or Y or Z. You know what I mean? That wasn't a thing until later. And then when it became a thing, then it was different. The same people, you understand? So even when I was becoming an adult and the place was changing and the same environment I grew up in where, yes, they had this and that going on, but it was generally everybody's living good. All of a sudden, that wasn't the case. You couldn't go here and you couldn't go there and you couldn't go so. And the younger siblings of my contemporaries, my peers, the same music was playing. Trinidad wasn't out yet, and they were influenced now. You understand? It was the beginning of the Movado
and
Cartel, and they were falling straight in line because what happened? The environment changed. The guns started to come in. The money in the drugs started to come in a much bigger way. So now the incentive is greater to get involved in those kinds of things. So that's all that has changed. There's never been any, the people like to talk the shit like, oh, well, long time, your mother, your neighbor see you doing some shit, they could thump you up, but what did that do? And people still do shit? You know what I'm saying?
But clearly not as much shit as people do now. I mean, I think that has some.
The only difference is that they are more violent. But in terms of underage sexual activity, I don't think there's any difference now than when not when we were growing up, but when older generations were growing up.
Okay.
Especially back then, because they had nothing for them to do. You know what I'm saying? Oh, what else would teenagers get up to if they weren't, getting up to them kind of folly? They're not cable TV and you know what I'm saying? Some of them, most people don't even have a TV. So that's why they was having children at 15 and 16 and if your grandmother, your grandfather, or your great grandfather, I had 15 and 12 and 13 and you know what I'm saying? Why that was? They weren't any different back then. It's not like they were more necessarily more responsible. But if you have access to if there is a...
But I also think too, the level of poverty now is higher because...
No.
When I say level of poverty, I'm not talking about the amount of people poor.
Inequality is greater.
Yeah, the inequality is greater now.
Yeah.
Because, long time you might have plenty children, but it was kind of cheaper to live. And if you have an okay job, probably an okay government job, you could flex. But no. You had 2 children that government job it had. So just imagine having 6. Or not having no job at all, or a very shitty job. I think it's much harder now so now there's a possibility that when your son reach 15, 16 and he want the nice things, he want the sneakers because he want to rank like the other fellas, and the parenting in too strong home, he would resort to...
I think because poverty was much more prevalent back then. As a country, we are much better off now, right? And this is a point that's been made by a lot of different sociologists and people who've studied, different societies. People normally point to poverty as a source of crime or one of the major causes of crime. When that's not necessarily the case. Some of the poorest countries in the world, people aren't engaging in anywhere near the amount of violent crime or even robberies that they engage in here. You go to some of the poorest countries in Africa, tribes where they have nothing, you know what I mean? But the point is that nobody have anything.
Right,
so when I was young, especially until I got to secondary school, because until I got to secondary school, all I knew was my zone. All I knew was my little area. And as I've said, I lived in a disadvantaged area and I was particularly disadvantaged, right? But generally, what I saw around me was what I thought the world was. That's how I thought everybody lived. But when I got to secondary school now and started to see people living much differently, that's when I realized I was real poor. You know what I mean? Prior to that, I just knew I don't have as much as these people and my neighbors. But when I got to secondary school is when I realized, yeah, but I'm real poor. And what tends to happen, especially with young men, is that when that reality faces them, when they don't have anything else any other source of esteem, of self-esteem, because they feel insignificant. Because, as men, status is very much more important to us because it has to do with whether we're able to attract a mate and so on. Because you know how women are hypergamous. So, they're looking for a man with of greater status than them. So if you as a man or a young man or boy don't feel as if you have any pips, you are no pips. You don't play no football. You don't play no sport. You can't dress swanky. No youth, where's that arena I could compete in?
We said, I mean, that might not be in your situation, but you're struggling in school to find a proper education, so you think that when I finish school, I'm not going to get no good work. I ain't getting no good work.
Yeah. And people telling you don't. Yeah. People basically, and treating you like, you ain't graduating to nothing much better than what you in here now. Then you look for a zone you could compete in. And that zone you'll compete in is out on the road. You understand? So that's why inequality tends to exacerbate crime, because young men in particular, when there's a lot of inequality, they start to feel like the only way I could stand up now and stick out my chest is by taking people things or being bad, being a ranker.
No, I'm not saying that this individual is bad. I don't know the individual from A to B or whatever the case may be. But, today on social media, I saw a former Miss TNT Universe or whatever the case may be marry a guy who's in jail. Interesting. Just talking about, the disparity and women being, hypergamous.
Yeah.
I don't know. Because that nigga got a real power boy.
Well, yeah. That is what tends to attract women. The women are attracted to status and a man's, and there are different ways men can express that, or men can acquire that status. I don't know how he acquired his, but clearly it worked for him. Right? But the point, coming back to the point with the parenting, is that I think, and until we understand this, I think we spin it up in mud. If we just feel, if we sort of act like it's only, over the past 20 years, we went from having the most wonderful parents in the world and most concerned individuals in the world, and now we have this crop. No, I think what was happening is that we were always bad parents. We were always not very good at raising children.
And I mean, but I kind of want to stick up in that too. I don't think it's even fair to say okay. So there are a lot of people who are exceedingly bad parents, right? But I think a lot of times some people are not necessarily bad parents, because I think plenty of times parenting is a thing that most of the time you're just not going to be good at it. Especially if you have a limited amount of children. If you have more children, you probably might get better, but then the children still wouldn't get the attention. But I think plenty parents, you're kind of winging it, if you understand what I'm saying. You wouldn't like people to feel that way, you wouldn't like people to think like that about it, but most time you're winging it now.
Yeah, but and that's my point. That's what I mean by bad parenting. The point I'm making is that I don't think we were ever much better at raising children. Everybody's just doing not doing their best. Some people weren't doing their best.
Right.
But, the best of us were just trying their best. They didn't really know. I mean, when you hear psychologists talk about how important it is to show a certain type of love and support in early years, you think back at the parenting some of us experience, like, what? is a surprise we aren't, just walking wrecks now. You know what I mean? In fact, you can kind of understand why you're seeing so much sociopathic behavior and psychopathic behavior, because when you think of what, when you read books and you learn what is actual, what is the most how to put it, appropriate way to socialize children, and you compare that to what we went through. Nobody was really parenting properly, but the difference is now social media is an issue, and not, because people talk about paying attention to children, and yes, we have things like both parents working or whatever, but I know plenty single mothers who were housewives And like I say, when the day come, children just leave the house. Them about the business. You know what I mean? They weren't working, but they weren't really paying attention to the children either. And the children were just out and on their own, up to their own devices. But it's just that luckily the devices that they were getting up to at that point in time were not what is the case now.
But don't you also feel, because it just now you're saying, you know, people let's say the village raising the child thing, you know, you don't think that makes a big difference in the situation?
No.
I
in terms of the just random disciplining. Now, having a village structure where, okay, my neighbor is a positive image or a role model, and they could provide sage advice, and I could have chats with them. That's not an issue. And having, village elders who could guide you. But that's not what people mean. People just mean, well, when I was young, if my neighbor or my the woman down the road see me doing shit, she could have slapped me and disciplined. Has not. I don't believe that has anything to do with with proper child rearing in any way, shape, or form. Dog, that make a difference to you?
No, I feel it might have a little bit.
When you get thump up, that used to stop you from doing what you wanted to do?
No, but what would happen is that I would have been very afraid of doing certain things for the neighbors to see.
But you didn't do it for them not to see.
But obviously,
it didn't change you as an individual.
No, it would have limited how much things I would have done, or the amount of times I would have done wrong things, if you understand what I'm saying.
No, okay. Now, the complete opposite to that, which is somebody, an elder in the neighborhood sees you doing something, attempts to correct you, not thump you up or whatever, attempts to correct you, or brings it to the attention of your parent. Yeah. No, but the parent now, instead of taking the information on and then taking the opportunity to discipline the child, they then start to cost the neighbor and tell the neighbor, well, your mother can't, don't fucking mind my child business, mind your business. That obviously is the complete opposite of that, and that is toxic as well. You understand? But I don't know that, just because
like, all right,
Miss Mabel down the road,
like, let me get a little idea, right? Like, you see, like smoking weed, dog. I think, I mean, I don't really have what do we call it, addictive or addicted personality. Addictive personality. I don't want to say that because I think people are addicted to me. And but the thing is, I don't really have it, right? So I don't know if it would have stuck. But like when the rest of children around by me might have been in the smoking weed thing, I had to not be on that because I'm afraid if somebody see me, they were going to tell my mother now, boy. You understand? No, I shouldn't say children from around by me because it was people who would come up on my side, right? Because that man close by with a cell. So men would have come up. But you go with everybody, whoever the case may be, and men go lie, man. Men go on to get a thing, but then you say, well, if I think and somebody step up in the window there and see me and tell my mother, you know?
Okay.
So, and that would have kept me away from that for a while. I ain't saying it's I still tried it at some point.
Right.
But probably if it was normal, I could have just do it and do it. I probably turn into one of them weedhead or them kind of people who kind of addicted to weed and must get breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
I think if that was to happen, that would happen. That would happen when they tried it. Listen, I think that to the extent that people can influence, because the other thing is that I am very doubtful how much influence parents really have on the minds of children, right? You think until you have children, you think that everything is nurture and nothing is nature. And that it doesn't matter the nature of the child. Once you do what you're supposed to, the child will come out a particular way. Nope. That's not true in any sense of the word, right? Obviously, there are things you can do as a parent, and there are things that you can do to influence how your child grows. But it's nowhere near as much as people think. The effect you have, and that is not just conjecture on my part. That is proven by science. Their DNA, their traits, and they've tested it on numerous occasions. People, identical twins, raised in different households, and exhibited the same types of behaviors when they became older because it didn't really matter what the parents did. All the parents did was. The only influence the parents had was that their natural tendencies were expressed in different ways because they were in different environments now. But the point I'm making is that to the extent that you can influence a child, right? I do not think that but to the extent that you can influence a child, it takes real effort, not just seeing a boy and hit him a tap for doing shit. You understand? Because I grew up around that. I grew up around where you go down the road and you know, not Miss Mabel, but whoever could see you and go tell your mother and thing and come out and even slap you. And then tomorrow you come and do the same shit. You're just doing it where she can see you now.
Right.
It didn't change them as people. It didn't change me as a person. You understand where I'm coming from? So, I don't know that makes any huge difference. People are going to do what they're going to do. But I think until we understand that we are working in an environment that is not helping, and we have to understand that and understand now that it means instead of blaming this one and that one and acting like it's some new phenomenon, understand what is really taking place. We were never good parents. We never taught people. We never really, trained people to properly nurture a younger generation. And it's just being exposed now because the children are exposed to so much that you can't control. The social media, everything is out there. And the environment is as it is because, you go to a Scandinavian country and, one thing you'll notice is that adults and children, there's barely a difference in the way that they interact. You understand? You'll find, children in the early teens cussing and, basically making their own decisions and doing what they want, you know what I mean? But they don't have what's taking place here because that's a completely different environment.
Right.
You understand? It's not the people in Sweden or Finland or Denmark and say better. They're just a better society as a whole.
All right. So I remember some years ago, I was hired to play in a beach party in Grenada, and I must have went on to play. I was like, about Jude, boy. I must have went on to play. It was at 1 o'clock in the morning, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning, and they had a set a little churn. Like real whining and walking up the waist and not walking up, but whatever Kenyan called whining, right? All in the sun. Right. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I mean, people might watch that and say, hey boy, that's real poor parents, whatever the case may be. But then Grenada's still in killing people the way we killing people.
Because they had no guns. Because the guns ain't reaching there. Because you see that same shit, you make my point exactly there. Because is that parenting? You understand? And that's why I'm saying the slackness that's taking place now, it ain't no different because that's just a society like we were 30, 40, 50 years ago, right? And the same, you see the little child whining, everybody laugh and get cakes and you get a little bit, give me a little taste of beer now, boy, and them kind of jackassness. The same thing was going on then, but it's just that those children weren't growing up to become, what we have out there now. Killing and because the violence element wasn't there and the guns weren't there. But you introduce a proper drug trade to Grenada. And when I'm not saying drugs not there, no, I'm simply saying you produce you incentivize that kind of trade.
This is about 20% of our GDP. It's possible. I was watching a thing on YouTube about Trinidad and Tobago. Had plenty of the facts.
Was Vice News?
No. Somebody who was doing research on Trinidad, right? And wherever they talk about the food, whatever. And they were talking to a guy who he's a Trini Jamaican, and then they had like people from Trinidad coming in and dropping in little info, whatever. And the guy who was doing whatever research, they were saying there's about 20% of our GDP comes from the illegal shit now, boy.
Right.
Which is
I mean, it wouldn't surprise me. It wouldn't surprise me. So you'd introduce that same thing to them small islands, and in no time, them same people, because the ingredients are there. Once there's inequality and there's a certain standard of behavior that's kind of just because every time mention little children out in the sand whining, so clearly there's a standard of behavior that's decorum that's not really up there now, boy. You know what I mean? Because if that's acceptable behavior, then anything could belong till them same trend, try to pick up gun and go the road and kill people.
But then again, they mightn't have the level of inequality.
But that just happened when the drug trade
start.
You understand what I'm saying? Because the businessmen start to get up there. You know what I mean? And the big rides just come in, and the Range Rovers and the Porsche Cayennes and the 90. Well, I see a 911 the other day. A Carrera. Sorry, a Carrera.
That 911, so.
It's probably a 911. So.
Yeah.
Them things started coming now, and the community leaders start to get pretty well laden in the pockets. It ain't long till everybody get shiny and want that. And so we had to understand that that's what's really taking place. We have an environment that's working against us. And it means now that stop blaming people and parents and we need license to be parent, because all these people who feel is best parents.
Yeah,
I wonder how well they would have to fare if they have a child with a particularly different mind.
No, I think it's important because you said it earlier on, but I want to reiterate that doesn't mean that because you may not have been the best parent or your parents weren't the best parents, that doesn't mean I shouldn't continue to try.
Of
right?
course, yeah.
That doesn't mean, some people say, well, if I'm not a good parent, everything will go happen. No, that just means you have to continue to try harder. Now, the point you were making with basically what they say, can make a child, you can't make the mind.
Yeah.
I do subscribe to that 100%. I think it's very important though to set the right foundation. So even if they go off of it, it's easy for them to it's easy for them to come back on track now. You understand? They wouldn't, even if they go off track, they would always keep the track in mind once they set the foundation right. That's what I believe.
Well, I think as a parent, your role is to provide a loving and supporting environment for your child to express themselves and produce the best of themselves, right? Your child will have natural proclivities. You have to try your best to provide an environment that would encourage them to use those proclivities in the most positive way possible. But the thing that we think where, I could drill my child into becoming, a scientist, right? I don't care what his or her natural proclivities are. I could drill them. I could make them into a scientist. Now, there are some people who believe they can do that. That has been proven to be very difficult because a child's propensities towards, especially because the main links are between your DNA and mental illness. They found that in many ways, mental illness is something that is almost unavoidable. The way you parent might have some slight effect, but it may delay the onset of the mental illness, but in general, it doesn't stop it from expressing itself. So there are also other inherited traits that are bound to express themselves in children as they grow older. But your job as a parent is to provide love and support so that they can express themselves and harness their abilities in the most positive way possible. You cannot craft them into what you want.
Right.
That's not your responsibility.
Right.
So
so that's the point I was making. Just make sure lay the right foundation. I think it's also important to teach your children stick-to-itiveness with certain things.
Yeah.
Because you mightn't come out a rocket engineer, but you also want that if it is you decide you want to be a DJ, not when you go the first party and play and you get boo, that is boy, I done being a DJ.
And I think that's one of the hardest things to teach. And I say that this is just me personally now because I'm thinking of my personal experience. I think that's one of the hardest things to teach children. I think I have 3 and I'm trying my best. It just doesn't. You could drill them and drill them and drill them and drill them. As soon as I move, when something gets hard, they just give up.
They
just give up.
I don't know. I really want to jump too much into that, but we talk more parenting. But do you think it's because of the other people that may be involved
because that's one thing. They don't have those sorts of people around them.
No, but like even your wife, you don't think is it a possibility that your wife might be a bit lighter on them?
Well, yeah, but they would be lighter on them than I would be. But the point is that I would have thought that you could train them that that eventually. When you repeat it and repeat because I'm trying to build toughness in them, right? I'm trying to build that resilience. I'm trying to get them to understand, listen, I know it's paining, but that doesn't mean you have to stop. I know it's bothering, but it's not, and we'll have the whole discussion when we start off. It normally comes when you're doing little physical activities, right? And it will start as, we're going to do this. I can't do that. You're going to do that. And then eventually they'll do it and I'll be like, you see, you didn't die. The same thing that you were crying and and bawling that you couldn't do, you just did it. Yes, okay. And we come tomorrow
and try next thing again and same back and again.
Same thing. And we'll do it 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 times, 10 times, 20 times, 40 times in a row. And the 41st time, still the same thing. Now it mightn't be the same task. They would get used to the task. But what I'm saying is the natural resilience. You would think that after a while, you just tell them, hey, all right, today we're running up that.
And they're ready to face that challenge.
And they're ready to face the challenge on the
So you think there's something that just in season children
it's
and
just
not in some children?
Yes.
Do you think, let me ask you this
in some people in general.
Well, right, but do you think that you're seeing less of that now? Are you seeing that less of that showing itself now that people, more children willing to accept challenges or see a challenge and willing to just fight it out and prove themselves? Or
well, you see, I only know my children, so I can't compare them to others. I don't know. I don't have exposure to a million different children to know if it's just them or if that's just a trend in young people in general.
I find to me it seems to be a trend in young people in general. Because it's the same thing with my two and. Like, let me tell you, like even simple things also. Like, I remember a time I out and them calling to me the printer, the ink in the printer had to change. Okay, I'll change it. Yeah. But we don't know how to change it. Figure it out.
Yeah.
You understand? I didn't born knowing how to change ink in the printer.
Yeah.
I didn't do a course in that.
Yeah.
I didn't go UE to do that.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? They didn't teach me that in school. What do you printer? And I think. But now I find a lot of children, I don't know how to do it. And they just stop.
Well,
like,
that's mine. I could tell you that. My son is getting a little bit, and that's why, as much as I don't like him playing video games so often, he's finally developing a little bit of that. I'm going to challenge myself and stick to something and master it with video games, right? And funny enough, it's because he's been playing Sonic the Hedgehog, all what we grew up playing, right? Because these games these days, because they know maybe it is a trend. Because when you look at video games these days, you get the feeling that they know that young people are not up for a challenge. So they're making these games. They're not testing your skill or anything like that. It's more like a movie that you are interacting with. You know what I mean? And yes, you could put it on a real hard mode and it gets challenging, but nobody plays it on that. Mostly children just play the game, just going through. And that's why, and they're making them so like if you don't have any skill, you could still enjoy the game. Whereas when we were young, if you couldn't play the game, if you didn't have any hand-eye coordination at all, put on the controller is a waste of time. But old style games like Sonic, that's not how they are. If you do not have that hand-eye coordination, you have to develop that in order to play the game and have fun doing it. So I thought because he's obsessed with Sonic, right? Since the movie, he's obsessed with Sonic. So he's been begging. But I thought as soon as he got the game, he would have been like, the usual thing, he just had to play it and it's going to get hard and like, nah, trade on. But he hasn't been doing that. So maybe it is that you have to find the one area that they might have that determination for, and maybe that is the key. You have to look for the area that they will actually express it. So you have to expose them to a million different things and see, okay, well, which one will you take to the point where you will be motivated to push through the challenge? But in that general attitude of, because you're casting yourself back to when you were young and how, well, me in my instance where, it's not like everything that I saw as a challenge I conquered, but I like the idea of, nah, boy, I had to do this.
Yeah, I had to try.
And I have to, and I'm going to keep doing it and doing it and doing it and doing it until I get it. They're not on that in any way, shape or form.
I remember when I was living home and my nephew playing game was the youth man. He said, playing a game, I get a little hard, change it. change the next game, and he would cycle through about 7 games. When he reached the 7th game or whatever, and realize, okay, I can't beat this or I can't conquer this, just take off the thing and go and find something else to do. And that blew my mind. Now, I was never no big gamer, right? So I wouldn't even put myself in this conversation. I play games, and I try whatever. My thing was car racing, so I would play a car racing game, and if you don't qualify on a past a certain thing, you wouldn't. And I would try and get faster, and I would have done it, to be real honest. But I was no major gamer. But Keston, my cousin, he was a gamer. And I would have seen this man in sleep and make sure he beat a game. He would buy a game, and by the end of the week, he finished the game. Right? I beat it, done. You understand what I'm saying? And he's not the only person. I have an ex-cousin, Stefan, he would do that too. And I know a few people like that. And then nowadays, sure. And I'm not seeing that from nowadays. Probably the ones who streaming online. But I don't know. I do pay attention to it as much. To know if...
Well, maybe what it is that it's a very, very tiny percentage of them. It's a very, very tiny percentage of them. And also, I think the thing that you have to do, now that I've seen it out loud talking to you, I think what it really is that you have to... Everybody will have their thing that they would apply themselves to. But it's just that what might be the difference now is that because these children have short attention spans, they're just like, nah. I guess with us, what else are you going to do?
That's true.
What else are you going to do? What else are you going to do? When you come out to play and everybody doing this thing where they're trying to run up this hill, because we used to have this, I don't know if you know Car Street in Belmont. No. There's a Gillingham Avenue, Gillingham Avenue, right? Gillingham Avenue just turning into a hill.
Right.
Well, the name of the hill itself is called Car Street. Okay. Right? So we used to try and run up straight up to the top of the hill, right? So if you come out today to play, and that's what everybody doing, what you gonna do? You know what I mean? You can't go back home and play on your game.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Well, at least I couldn't because I didn't have no console. So you had to do it. And maybe that's the difference. There's just so many things they could do that they just
and then even if we're talking about game, that's where the conversation would have been. The conversation would have been, boy, I get to be the stage, serious thing we had to do, boy, I don't want to tap so So, and now you go back home and try it, or whatever the case may be, but now it has so much distraction that I make it this okay. We could scroll through TikTok and mindless, just
consuming. There's so many ways.
And that's some of them. It's just sit down and watch game on YouTube.
It's just watch gamers play games. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Somebody does that too. He was on for hours and watch.
But we didn't have that.
Exactly.
Well, I mean, we used to do it, but we used to sit down in our living room and watching man.
And to be fair, that wasn't fun at all.
In
fact, he only used to do that when, in my case, I remember we used to go by a fellow named Ramon, and if he feeling bad mind, he will make us and watch him play the game.
Right.
And well, especially for me, I never had no Super Nintendo home, so I don't get to play game unless it's the arcade or here.
Yeah.
So I will sit down and go through that and hope that he get fed up of being on the bad mind and hand over the control. But it wasn't like I was sitting down having fun watching him play. Now, it might have fun if it's men playing against each other, like Street Fighter. You know what I mean? But watching him playing Contra or one of them games, a quest game where you just watching him go through, enough fun. You know what I mean? But these kids nowadays, that's their thing.
So I don't know, but all you need to sort out all your parenting. Rondell Fields, big up Rondell Fields all the time, much respect. As a brother, I've a great deal of respect for, and he just talking about, hey, it's about time, let's stop blaming fathers, boy.
Absent fathers.
Well, absentee fathers. Yeah, right?
I disagree with him, though.
To address the other comment, when it comes to father's absenteeism, I understand the significance of a father being there. But however, we don't know what life throws at us. And every parent, whether male or female, must be able to effectively parent. You may not be able to teach your son to be a man, but you should be able to teach them to be a good, upstanding citizen. Many of us, many boys were raised by their mothers alone. And people always tend to lean on the absenteeism of father when there is the presence of the other parent. If the father dies, what is your excuse now? Are you to now show your responsibility as a mother? Because of that, you must be able, as I said before, to get your children into spaces of positive influence. If you identify that there's no male form of parentage around, there must be some place where you could produce, where you could bring your child or subject your child to, where they'll get that male empowerment. So I don't use that as an excuse because, as I said, in case of loss of life, if a father dies, what are you going to say when a child is going to automatically become a menace to society? I mean, any parent, whether it's a father raising a daughter, whether it's a mother raising a son, should be able to, I mean, you're not going to get everything perfect. And yes, it may be easier at times when you have that support, but you have to be proactive based on the situation that has been given to you, you found yourself in, to be able to still continue to give that child the best level of parenting. So that is one of the things I can't say I truly support, because in other words, we're saying that mothers are incapable of raising children, if that is the case. And if that is the case, then the court for the last few years has been doing something very foolish to be giving mothers custody over fathers. If we are saying that a mother is incapable automatically to raise a well-productive and a law-abiding citizen in Trinidad and today.
I disagree with you.
The thing is, listen, I understand the point you're making, and I understand Barack Obama's point, and he was the one who said, if a father not in the house, the chance of the child ending up in jail, dropping out of school is much higher. That is probably true. But the point he was making is, okay, so if the father is not there, you just go and let a child think they're criminal because the father is not there?
I know that's the point he's trying to make, but nah, the fire had to be on the absentee fathers. We're not talking about fathers who dead. You understand? We're not talking about fathers who and we're also not even talking about fathers who have separated from the mother, but playing a role in the child's lives. That's not what we're talking about. Nobody's talking about, a divorced couple where the father there's not one home, but the father is, doing his thing and playing a role, being a vital role in the child's life. That's not what we're talking. We're talking about absentee fathers. We're talking about fathers who are. No, I know he will talk about, and he's quite right to point out, when they have toxic women who will do all sorts of things to keep, to antagonize men and keep their children away from them and so on and so forth. So that's a different story. And that we should always, chastise the women in that instance. But if we're talking about, I don't know, I didn't see the what question was asked or what comment he was responding to. But if it is, we are talking about asking fathers to step up. Nah, don't deflect from that.
Nah, but listen.
Because
so I didn't see the particular question as well. But the thing is, I could understand and respect what he's saying in terms of, listen, even if a man chooses not to step up, right? At this point, what are you going to do? Are you going to allow the child to go astray? Are you going to allow the child to go astray because there's some way to point out to had fallen short?
But that's not... Okay, I don't know what the question was, but I suspect it was simply something about absentee fathers. And he is the president of the Single Fathers Association, so that's why it would be asked to him. No, he is not one that would not be, living up to his responsibilities. I would understand that, but the point is, he's kind of seen as an advocate for men, right? So it could legitimately be asked him, okay, well, you're always advocating for men and men's rights, but what about the men who are shirking their responsibilities? You don't respond to that question with, well, yeah, but the woman had to do that. No, dog.
No, but that's not why I get from it. To me, I get and as I say, we could be wrong, but what I get from it is, Dr. Rowley talk about parenting. Somebody probably tried to say, and I didn't feel it was a question that was directly put to him, I think, because it looked like it was a TikTok video he did. I think...
No, but it was an interview. He was being interviewed on the same WESN.
Oh, well, no, I didn't see that.
Because there was a host who came in at the end, and I think I saw the WESN logo up in the corner.
Right? But I feel like some woman or somebody, let me just say some woman, somebody was just saying, yeah, Dr. Already talking about parenting, but these absent fathers or these homes without fathers and the single mothers trying their best, but it's problems, right? To me, I think you're trying to say, listen, it's have absent fathers, but at the end of the day, that is not an excuse to allow your child to reach that far. Because he went on to say, listen, even if the father's not there, find some sort of positive male role model or whatever
Yeah,
the case
but
may be.
I understand what he's saying, but that should never be in response to what happened to the absentee fathers. As I say, we aren't talking about situations where the father is dead, or we're not talking about situations.
Yeah, but what he's supposed to say? But what he's supposed to say?
What he's supposed to say is yes, fathers need to step up and meet their responsibilities.
But the thing is, he has said that, so I don't think he doesn't think that.
What I'm saying is that, again, we didn't see the question, but we have to presume from his response that he is saying, listen, don't just blame the absent fathers. I don't think that should be a response to what happened to the absent fathers. You know what I'm saying? Because the absent fathers need to be there. So first and foremostly, men need to step up.
Right.
But because this is your responsibility. So there should be no absentee fathers.
Well, that ain't gonna happen. But
that's the thing.
And the thing, but we faced with this now, and this is where I think we might disagree, because I really and truly, this is what we face with. What are we doing going forward? Them fellas and them worthless, them fellas didn't seem what they trying. What are we doing going forward? If what I think is the single mother situation or single parent homes that add into the amount of crime and add into the worthlessness of children, what are we doing going forward? I mean, you could...
Well, the thing we're doing going forward is telling them men to pay. Hey, you have children. They ain't dead, you know.
No,
the children ain't dead.
Yeah, but
you are still their father. So why we can't talk... The same way we could tell the existing mother to do better. Why we can't tell the father
but my
do
thing
better?
is, he has said that before. So at this point, how much time you go chant the same thing about fathers do better?
Listen, he presents himself and styles himself as a representative of men. And listen, I'm not trying to fight Rondell Fields because, as I've said on the show before, I like the man, right? And I think I love what he advocates for, and you know, as I say, what he plays a vital role. But I think in this instance here, if we are talking about the absentee father, you know what it sounds like when you answer like that? It sounds like you have something against women. It sounds now like you aren't just like, I'm not just I'm just an impartial person advocating for justice on the part of men. Now you start to sound like, well, listen, my thing is always to put it on them. Because we asking you the representative of men, and we saying, well, hey, listen, men are stepping up. You don't respond to that with, well, yeah, but the women need to stop blaming the father. But the fucking father's not there. They're supposed to be there.
Well, to be fair, he is more the advocate for single parent men. So probably you don't know what is going on in the minds of men who don't want to see what they're children.
And you could say that. You could say, well, listen, I can't even begin to imagine how, a man abandoning a child. I would never do that. That is not... I've dedicated myself to being a father all my life. So I can't even put myself in that frame of mind. But I would just tell men, the men that aren't stepping up to the plate, do what's needful. But when you push it back on the women now you're saying this song like, well, you out here to fight women. You know what I mean? In the same way that a feminist would she's always trying to spin a story into how it's a man's fault. It sounds to me like that's what he was doing there. Like he's trying to spin it into, yeah, but what about the women? Dog, but the women are there. At least they're there, right? Where are the men? Again, I don't know what the comment was. The comment he was responding to.
What I got from it, and which was satisfying for me, is that here going on, if the man not there, right, look for some sort of other positive male role model to introduce to the child life to try
but how you hear that song in now, boy? You telling the mother she had to go and look for some next man. Not necessarily a husband or a boyfriend, but she had to go and look out in the community to find a man to be a role model, and have a sperm donor out there who just acting careless and reckless, and we just he done gone. Don't talk about that. Let me talk. What shit is that?
But I think that's being real though. I think
that but the same way you're asking her to step up, why can't ask him to step up?
Because he clearly doesn't want to.
Well, then both of you all are to blame, and it's not just and the point of trying to turn it back on the mother now, like or to say, well, no, but let me stop talking.
But why is seeing it as turning back on the mother instead of, listen, this man don't want to do what's right, but we still need to save the children, right? So this is the alternative. The alternative is make your child available to be coached or to be influenced or
that to me is like saying, well, listen, let we don't tell parents to mind their children, let we just try to improve the school feeding program because it's clear they don't want to do what they want to do. So let somebody else take up the responsibility. Nah, that shit. The point is, address what has to be addressed, because him saying that is not going to change anybody's mind anyway. So all we are simply, or if the question is, what about the fathers? Then the answer should be the fucking fathers should be fathers. Punto final. It shouldn't be the body mother. I'm fed up of people blaming the absentee father. What about the mothers, the single mothers who raising these children bad?
No, but he doesn't say that alone. And
but as we said in response to the question.
But he didn't say that alone. He said the mothers could do other things. And this is why I say I don't see it as blaming the mothers at all. I see it as...
But that's exactly what he did. He said, as a matter of fact, he said, he fed up with the blaming of the absentee fathers. What about the mothers who are raising these children badly?
Right. And then he went on to say more. And because, let it be real, at the end of the day, you could say what you want and do what you want. Most of the times, the mothers are the ones who end up with the children, right? And no matter what you do, it's a man who's supposed to be paying money in court, and they ain't even doing that. Yeah. You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
So the thing is, name the court system can get them to do something, right? So at this point...
Okay, so what is going to get a mother who is not already doing that? What is going to get her to do that? Him talking will get them to do that. Well, nobody's going to change from him talking. So you might as well address it. What I'm saying is that you might as well address your condemnation, because essentially the point is, because as I said, the reason why I say he sounds like he's just trying to push the blame on, because he's constantly talking about how unfair the system is to men and women who do this and women who do that and women who do the other. Now that's fine, and when it's appropriate to do that, then he sounds like what he is, which is an advocate for justice and when it comes to men. But when he does things like this, he sounds to me like, as I say, he sounds like that. I can think of a version of a feminist who does the same thing. It's always, what about the men? You understand what I'm saying? That is my thing. If you're being asked, what happened to why aren't the fathers stepping up in these households? The answer should be yes. Any father who is not meeting his responsibilities needs to be told to do that. Not lecture women on how they could make up for a man who's not there.
And I don't know about
damn shit.
I think you taking that real, because I didn't even see it as a lecture. I think
that's what he did. He was like,
I think it's more of advice. Like,
it wasn't impartial advice, because he started off by saying, I fed up with them blaming the absentee. He started like that, and then he went on to say, and if that is not the case, then the court has been giving these women and his bitterness came out in that. His whole I had issues with my mother, my child mother, and I went through this with the court, and all of that came out in his answer. It wasn't just an impartial, because an impartial answer would have been, well, listen, the men in all rights should be stepping up. But what I would say to any single woman, any single mother out there who's trying hard, don't make the absence of a man. That would have been a much calmer answer, but he didn't answer like that. He started off by saying, he sounded like he first of all, stop blaming man. He started off by saying he fed up on them blaming the absentee fathers. Oh, you can start with that. But of course, not to blame absentee father, because he absent. So you can't start with that. And then go down the road of, and then the courts have been given, if it is that they can't mind children by themselves, then the courts have been making wrong decisions by awarding them custody. That's sounding like you're taking your fight against women and you're bringing it into this issue here. And that's not fair.
I am. Well, I will invite him to defend his points and see what he had to say, because I could really understand a lot of the things he's saying, and from the perspective, because he probably saying, coming to say, obviously, he might be talking from a place knowing way more situations than we know about. So there are probably fathers who trying to be in, because remember, he more dealing with the single fathers who want to be fathers, right?
Yes.
Than than fellas who don't want to be fathers, right?
Yes. So and I think, go ahead, sorry.
So I think the angle or the perspective he talking from is from men who want to see their children and can't get to see their children, and then these same women who will try all kind of things for these men not to see their children and say that they are single mothers and the fathers are right.
And that's my point. I think that's exactly what he always has in his brain whenever he's answering. But if it is, because he started by saying, I'm fed up of people blaming the absent fathers. let's assume that whoever comment he was responding to was asking about absent fathers. Absent fathers is different from you, meaning Rondell Fields, right? And men who trying and these conniving women, these bitter women, thing and doing all kind of thing, using children as leverage, all that nastiness. Yeah, but that's different. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about absent fathers. Fathers who wants no part to play in
But the
their
thing
life.
is, I understand what you're saying, but I also understand how, from his perspective, how it's very easy for what they ask and what he knows is be happening to connect, which is not necessarily the truth, which is very easy for you to process it one way.
But it's the same thing. It's the same thing feminists do, and it's the same problem we have. Every time you ask them a question, they start to think about the man who hurt them and the stress them went through, and some abusive days and stuff, and they then paint that across every issue, and it colors the way they answer and the way that things are dealt with. Because from his response, you would think that he's just skating over the idea that these fathers aren't doing what they're supposed to do and going and telling, well, all right, let me just put more load on the mother. How you could reach there? How we could skip past the app? That's my problem. How we could, as I say, if he had said, listen, absent any father out there who is making no, because, and he could even say, listen, as I know so many men who are trying to be great fathers to their children, and they're meeting all sorts of obstacles in the court, in the in the relationship with the child's parents and with the child's mother and whatever. So if you have a child who wants to be a part of your life and his mother wants it, please, but for the single mothers out there who so and so, these are the things. You could take the child to this, you could take the child to that. That to me would have sounded like a more dispassionate, like he was just giving advice to, people who want to know. But the way he answered, he started from let me defend man. Let me defend man and in a way, throw woman under the bus. Because that's what you did. That is what you did. And I think that to me was, that I couldn't, because if we're going to condemn, we should start with who should be condemned first? The absent father, right? And then anything could happen after that. We can advise wherever we want after that. But absent father shouldn't be flicking absent. He should be out there advocating that.
I mean, even on that note, to kind of come away from the Rondell Fields and that thing, right? Of course, Rondell Fields, the door is open for you to come on the podcast and just show these ideas and have these conversations. But I think sometimes some fathers should be absent. I think there are some fathers that it might be better off if they're absent.
Well, they shouldn't have children. Yeah, there's people who just shouldn't have children.
Well, yeah, but then you're kind of setting up yourself there.
No, I understand what you're saying.
Because that's what they're saying.
Listen, the thing is, it shouldn't be that you have the child and then you absent yourself because you're unsuitable. You should just not have the child. And there are ways to not do that and enjoy yourself still. Right? There are ways and means to enjoy yourself and not, but you just have to be a little bit, a little bit responsible. A tad. I mean, oh God, yes, there's always the instance where certain things don't work, but it's very rare. Right? Very rare. So I wouldn't suggest that we have the children and then absent yourself because you're unsuitable. I would go before that and I would say, not have the children. How about that? How about you lead you lead the parenting thing?
Well, but you remember some people say children are blessings, or some people want to feel, well, boy, when I make this child, you never hear all the way things people say. They say, yeah, don't worry now, when you have the child, God is provide, things just happen for you. So you probably think, and you make a mistake, you breed up, oh, good boy, you just get pregnant, boy. But then often people say, and when people go tell them, hey boy, congratulations, don't worry, God go provide, ting. And you think and realize, boy, where God, boy? You went in the shop and God wasn't there, boy, to pay the bill. You understand? I don't know.
Well, there are many ones that should be absent. The ones who, if it's just an economical thing, that is the ones who would create more havoc in the child's life that should be absent.
No, I just think that's something why some men I can't handle and disappear. And then, of course, we have the bad fathers or the bad people, I shouldn't say bad fathers, but the bad people, whether it be criminals or drug dealers or drug pushers or whatever the case may be, that shouldn't be trying to have a family.
Yeah, I agree. I agree 100%.
And, women, right? I go and be like Rondell Fields, and jump with the woman. Dan, or China to make children for them kind of fellas.
I 100% again. Yes, I on board with that. Everybody should just be, more careful about, the things that they're doing. It's, life is a serious thing, you know what I mean? And if you're going to involve another human being that, you are going to be placed in charge of for a minimum of 18 years, these aren't decisions that you should just make all willy-nilly. You understand? That's thankfully we live in a day and age where you could kind of control, you could engage in family planning. Plan it now. Plan it. Use your head, use your sense. But just people just out here living reckless now. Men, women, everybody just living reckless. Just doing whatever they feel.
And that's one of the issues I had with the whole Roe v. Wade discussion, right? Now, I am a person who, I would say, I am kind of pro-choice to some extent. But I also would say that I also pro you choosing to do the right thing before reaching that stage. You understand what I'm saying?
Exercising some responsibility.
Yeah, exercising some, and nobody wants to about that at all, boy.
Of course not.
You understand what I'm saying?
Of course not.
Yeah, you don't need to go and get drunk, and you don't need to go and have a one night stand and then get pregnant because people like worried. So what about that woman get pregnant from a one night stand?
How about she not do that?
Right.
How about she not do that? How about they not do that?
Right.
The two people involved not do that.
Because at the end of the day, if you go and you drink and get drunk and you bongs on somebody, and they're going to get charged with murder.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? So the same way, you need to be responsible in that
all the time.
way.
Yeah.
Then you need to be responsible all the way.
But the main problem is that we have been trying to encourage a culture of how to put it, reckless sex, right? That is the culture now, and we're trying to encourage it as opposed to. There was a point in time when society was more conservative and we were very prude and we used to try to suppress that. But then we had the sexual revolution and it's all about, hey, so we have a society that basically says, yeah, well, it's just, just a bodily function like shitting or pissing. So just go out there and do it. And so that now runs up against having to mind children. And so that's why it's important now to have abortions in the mix, because that's the only way you could keep that lifestyle, that culture around. So when people say things like, so what I go do now if, I get drunk last night and sleep with a crackhead. Well, how about we not get drunk and sleep with a crackhead? How about that? But then I'll have to be like personally responsible. And do you not know I'm just a sexual being? Whenever I have urges, I have to scratch them.
And you're trying to tell me how to live my life.
Anyway, yes.
Yeah, just to touch on one thing here, as we saw some of the heavy rains coming in with the rainy season, and the Maracas Bay car park has flooded again. Why is an issue for me, right? You see when they take money from the taxpayers to do things like these, and then they do shit, and they're still having problems, and at some point they take money to try and fix it, and they mightn't fix it the first time they try again, they might have to do that a couple of times, and it might be a job that they're overpaying for, and then they come to tell me, well, boy, the country don't have no money, and not because of this, but we're talking about plenty other projects like this, like the Mosquito Creek Highway that fall apart. I don't care which government started it and which one ended it or whatever the case may be.
Yeah. The point is money burning.
And it fall apart. And then they come to say, well, boy, we ain't have no money now, so you have to face the pressure. And that has always been my issue now, boy. The fact that I don't mind if prices of fuel have to raise the subsidy, that'll drop the amount of money you spend on the subsidy, or you had to bring in property tax or whatever the case may be. I don't mind if you have to do that because we have tried everything and, we just... It don't nothing else we could try again. We try everything and we making as much money as we could make. We saving as much money as we could save. We ain't spending bad money. And they come and tell me,
but market forces are what they are. And
right.
We have to do what we have to do.
Right? Cool. But then when money wasting on shit and money blowing and then you understand what I'm saying? And then they come and they tell me, well, you have to tighten your belt.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it's like, it's squandering money out there. You see the roads these days? The roads are real bad these days.
And listen, the thing is, I'm not a civil or structural engineer, so I can't independently assess these things. And maybe where the it was impossible for that car park to be built any differently, but they still had to do what they had to do because it's better than having the mud, the mud infested area when right. So whatever. But the point is, we've seen many, many instances where some very expensive mistakes were made. You know what I'm saying? From Petrotrin,
Right.
straightforward. Very expensive mistakes were made. And the people who made these mistakes are still out here again, places on boards, and still have stunning resumes and considered very intelligent and respectable individuals in society. They're still referred to as experts. And I'm like, whoa. If I make a mistake that costs somewhere where I work in $1,000, I get fired, bro. You know what I mean? You're making mistakes that costing the country billions. And everybody's just carrying on, you know what I mean? Everybody's just like, well, that part of the thing, like, money does waste. You know what I mean? That's how it's going.
Hard luck.
We had to try a thing,
And
it
as you have said on the podcast before, that's because not your money. Because not the money comes out of your pocket.
Exactly.
You understand what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Because you pay somebody to fix your backyard.
Yeah.
Right?
To pave your backyard.
Right?
Because of flooding.
Because of flooding. And then it come and flood again.
Yeah.
You will want to cuff down the person.
Yeah. In fact, knowing them, they would sue.
Right?
Because they would have the money to sue.
And the man either come and fix it, or you have to give you money that you can pay somebody else to fix it.
Yeah.
And that's what happened. So why we have to take that? Why we had to go through that? You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I think that's your shit, dog. I mean,
I agree. I mean, and listen, you could never, there's no system that will be perfect once it involves human beings, because human beings are imperfect. And so you could, bad money must spend, right? Because you and I spend bad money in our personal finances, right? But it's just this, like you're saying, it seemed to be reaching a ridiculous level.
Yeah. I mean, it can't be like that all the time.
Yeah.
Because the reality is, if we continue to spend money, bad money, all the time, we'll be where we are now.
I know you're ready to play the video.
So now this brings us into, people of ill repute being in high places. You understand what I'm saying? And basically, anyhow, these cycles just repeating themselves.
Yes, yeah.
That's what it is. These cycles keep repeating themselves. Yeah, so we're gonna touch on it there.
Let's talk also about just the historic impact of a current president's Justice Department prosecuting a president going out of office. I remember a lot of discussions when George W. Bush was leaving office at the end of 2008, early 2009. There are a lot of Democrats, there are a lot of progressives, there are a lot of Obama supporters that wanted George W. Bush prosecuted for war crimes.
Yep.
And Barack Obama wisely said, no, we don't want to get into that. And I say wisely because, of course, Barack Obama, 8 years later, could have had war crime charges brought against him for his use of drone strikes against American citizens. And I'm just saying, at the end of every presidency, you could go back, cherry pick, and do it. So I've always said, you don't bring charges against the last president. I agree with the Kennedys when it came to Gerald Ford, that pardoning Nixon, moving on, even though it cost Ford the presidency, it was a thing to do. That was just a really long wind-up to say. But in this case...
Is this different?
But in this case, we have a president for the first time in American history that is trying to destroy American democracy and is very open about it, that he wants to undo a presidential campaign. If we don't move here, so I guess what I'm saying, this is a hell of a quandary for Merrick Garland, isn't it?
It is, and it's a hell of a moment. I mean, if we can't agree on election results, we're looking at chaos and civil war. And
Yeah.
I saw that clip and I just could not stop laughing because we talked about it last week with Rowley when he made his statement about the masks, right? And no pun intended, but I just love to see when the mask slips.
Right.
And powerful people, and well, for those who may not be aware, that is Joe Scarborough from MSNBC. I believe that was the morning show program that clip was from. That is the morning show, the morning news show on MSNBC. The woman, I don't know if we could put in that clip because I don't know if MSNBC.
Nah, yeah. So I just had to play the audio. Yeah, right. Them don't play at all.
Right. So, but and the other woman speaking is his wife Mia Brzezinski or whatever her name is, right? And when I say powerful people, because they are major personalities in the United States mainstream media. But I like when powerful people just like they don't realize that they're saying something that kind of tells you what what's really going on in the back of in the back. And okay, and before I get to that, let me just make it clear because and I'm not going to spend too long on it, but I received about 3 messages this week from people listening to the podcast last week and sent me messages about, like studies about mask wearing and whatever, right? And I want to believe it's not that they don't want to understand. Maybe they don't want to understand. But just to be 100% clear, maybe I was unclear last week. It was not a discussion about whether masks worked or not. It was me simply making the point that when Dr. Rowley mentioned the fact that we aren't scared anymore as his motivation for looking at removing the mask mandate, I said that made it clear that
his decision was not scientific.
Was not one that was based on science. Right? It was a political decision. It was mainly, you all were scared. I have to be seen to be addressing your fear. So I put this in place. And that's it. That's the only point I was trying to make. My position whether masks work or not, that was not up for debate last week, right? And I'm not going to get into that right now. But I like to see when, they say things that make it very clear what they, what's really going on in the back of their brains. Now, they are talking about holding Donald Trump accountable for what they see as his role in fomenting insurgency on January 6th, 2021. Right? And they have been doing that. Joe Scarborough himself has been making the argument that the main reason why this must happen is because it must be made clear that no one, even a president or former president, is to be above the law.
Right.
So having said that's been his spiel all the time since this thing has been in the news. That's been his thing. It must be made clear to Donald Trump that he is not above the law. Having said that, what do you think is strange about what he just said there to you?
That Obama could be considered could be considered above the law, but it's not a matter about above the law, You can't make the thing look bad. You understand? But guess what? We don't like Trump, so he could look bad. You understand what I'm saying?
This man just said that George Bush
and
George W. Bush could have been prosecuted for war crimes. But he's glad that Obama didn't do that.
Right.
Because Obama himself could have ended up being tied up in some war crimes prosecution. Now, as somebody who was commenting on the clip pointed out, he could have argued, and one would assume that if you were a moral person, that this is the argument you would make. You would have made the argument that I was actually disappointed that Barack Obama did not prosecute George W. Bush for war crimes because, well, number one, he committed war crimes, right, which are not good, right? War crimes ain't good, right? I would have liked to have seen him prosecute him to number one, establish the same principle that he's not above the law. That's simply because you're the president doesn't mean you could go around bombing people all willy-nilly, right? And also, it would have set the precedent that if you commit war crimes in office, you will be prosecuted, and you should not want to see war crimes. So he could, if he was in fact the kind of person he pretends to be, he would have felt like, no. The argument should have been, nah, we shouldn't let war crimes slide. And I'm vexed that, Barack Obama did not prosecute, because if he had done that, then it would mean every other president would know, hey,
Well, be very careful.
don't be out there going out there bombing innocent people, killing people all willy-nilly. But he didn't say that. He said, well, no, killing innocent people, all right. I couldn't, oh God, we don't have to go down that road. As a president, you kill a few innocent people. Murder people.
But as he's saying, yeah, because if you look back after every president, you could find things.
You will find crimes.
Yeah.
Right. But not this.
Yeah.
Not this crime. Well, what he is is classifying as a crime.
Because just now, remember he said that Obama could have gotten taken down for
war crimes.
For drone strikes on
American citizens.
Right? Let's just say the insurrection thing that happened. Is how much people died? 3 or 5?
Was one? I only know
I think
one
person get trampled and I think
one was shot by a police officer.
Right.
Yeah.
But I think a police died as well. A police officer died in that as well.
Yeah, but they didn't know. I don't think his death was necessarily linked to
that
actions, because they said he got hit with a hydrant.
Okay.
But then that was untrue, and or it was proven false or whatever. I don't know if he had a heart attack.
Right.
I don't know. But the point is,
right.
Yeah.
So let me just say, for argument's sake, you want to be violent. Say 3 people.
Right. Yeah.
3 people.
Yes.
3 compared to thousands.
Oh, well, hundreds. I don't know if we could reach thousands
No, well,
under Obama.
No, but not under Obama. But
well, the war crimes committed by George Bush,
was
be
thousands,
in millions, because what we're talking about is invasion of Iraq, you know what I'm saying, and Afghanistan, right? That is what is in question here. So we talk about millions
on that side,
and then and hundreds, I believe,
under Obama.
When they're talking specifically about drone strikes, but then they could also talk about some of the wars he sanctioned as well, the invasion of Libya, and those sorts of those things could be questioned as war crimes too. But he specifically, let's leave it to what he said: drone strikes. Yeah.
And let's leave it to American people, because let me just say, you don't care about Afghanis, you don't care about people from Iran, right? Iraqis. But let me just say, you really and truly, when you kill American people, we have an issue with that. Right? That's the only thing we really care about.
Yeah.
So Obama possibly kill 100 of them. Or hundreds of them. But oh God, it's 8 years, dog. I mean, Trump is only 4 years there for, and it's 3. You understand what I'm saying?
So he is essentially telling you, murdering people, because war crimes in this instance would be referring to unlawful killings. The unlawful killing of human beings. So murdering innocent people, in many instances innocent people, he is saying that's all right. We should overlook those things and just move the fuck on. Right? But questioning an election, nah, bro. Nah. And let's be honest, he doesn't care about questioning elections, because when the last lot ran around claiming that
Russia rigged the election.
Yeah, he didn't have obviously argument. Oh, well, he went further than that. He tried to blah blah blah. And they didn't incite an insurrection, whatever. Right? They'll pretend that that's the difference now. That other people. But the point is, let's be honest. You really didn't have a problem with people accusing the election of being illegitimate, because the guy at the end of the clip, the guest and the thing said, if we can't agree on the results of elections, then you have chaos.
Right.
But the last lot went around saying for years,
for nearly whole thing,
for almost his entire term, that it was an illegitimately conducted election where there was interference from a foreign party, and that had a lot of people believing that he wasn't rightfully the president, right? But so let's be clear, he doesn't give a fuck about that. But what he's saying is, but Donald Trump contesting an election or questioning an election, nah. War crimes, murdering people, cool. Questioning, we need a democracy. So it's important we have the democracy so we can carry on committing war crimes. Right? We can carry on. But no, the reason why I found that so insightful, and I insist that we talk about it today, because again, people will ask what I have to do with us here, is that now MSNBC is, to be fair, in the States, everybody recognizes that it's biased. I don't think many people in this country here know that it's biased, because I've seen MSNBC reports form parts of international news
Locally.
news locally, yeah, right? They don't think that they're looking. They don't see that as a biased form of news, right? So these things make it into our. This is how we here in Trinidad and Tobago, the people who aren't, like us who are up on everything or whatever. This is how they gain an understanding of what is happening out there. And these people are placed up there as impartial and authoritative when it comes to telling you what is happening. And he has just made it clear to you that he values his democracy more than he does. Now, the real kicker is that now these war crimes would have been committed against black and brown people, right? Because the American citizens he's talking about are not like Kansas City Americans he's talking about. He's talking about people who may have had links to terrorist organizations, they were of either born in those countries but were naturalized Americans or whatever. The point is, they held American citizenship, but we're not just talking about regular New Yorkers or whatever, right? And they weren't on American soil at the point in time. But the point is, it would have been the also precious black and brown people. These are the same people, him and his wife, who pretended that they were appalled when Donald Trump allegedly said that, made the comment about the shithole countries. And I say allegedly because up to now, he has always denied having said it. And there's never been any any audio clip or video of him saying it. But let's assume it was cool. And that was what happened. They were appalled by that. Because it was, what was he saying? And the racist undertones and the, we care so much about the black and the brown people. Those war crimes were committed
in those places. And a lot of those.
In the Middle East.
Yeah, because they also.
Against brown people.
When they say.
In Middle East and North Africa.
When they say when Donald Trump called those places shithole, he listed some of these places.
But he pointed out, he mentioned Haiti.
Right?
Yeah.
But I think he pointed out other places they claim. But there was a few, like, those kind of places.
I don't remember Haiti, I don't know.
Yeah. Right? And, yeah.
Right. So they claimed they were so appalled, right? They got on their moral high horses. And it's MSNBC, so they constantly pretend that they care so much about the black and the brown people. Now, those war crimes were committed in the Middle East and Northern Africa against brown people, black and brown people, right? So, and he's saying, well, if nobody's held accountable for that, that's fine.
But
that's fine. But question an election, and now we have real problems. That he has to go to jail. You could have murdered thousands, millions, tens of thousands. And these people, he would have George Bush on his show and talk to George Bush, and they would sit down and have a big conversation about what an awful person Donald Trump is. And he's sitting across the table from somebody who,
responsible for Iraq, for the search of mass, for weapons of mass destruction, and they're still in fine.
Yeah.
Right? And, well, of course, Afghanistan and the chaos that's still going on in Afghanistan. Because after yesterday, I was watching interview that guy on Joe Rogan, and he was saying that how they end up going back into Afghanistan against the wishes of the American government to save people now. People who were helping them under the
exactly. Right.
And they kind of make an illegal, unauthorized move.
To help some of these translators and these spies that were...
Right? I think this is about 23 or 24 flights they make back in and out.
And hundreds of them were left there and some of them have been killed already. Some have been, they've been tortured and so on, having their families tortured and so on. That is all the responsibility of... But he would have a nice little brunch with George Bush, of course, but then pretend that he is... Now, why this is important, and I know that people, to some extent, you could talk to you blue in the face. People they love it. They love the bacchanal. Some people, it's almost like wrestling, like professional wrestling, where we know it not real. We just like the bacchanal, right? So some people won't listen. But for those of you who still feel that when you're watching that stuff on the TV, that you're looking at people who are just simply there to bring you the facts. That is what you're seeing. That is what is really... You have people who are saying to you that, murdering people, once it's not in front of my face, That's fine.
If you had the George Bush thing, I'd make a funny joke. Because, you know, with black people could do anything. And it's fine. But once white people do it, But, I mean, technically, if liberals do it, it's fine. Nearly anything liberals do, it's fine.
No, but in the case, George W. Bush wasn't even, he was a Republican, which they hated him at the time. But now, because he is anti-Trump, he's he's on every show now, and you know everybody respects his opinion. All of a sudden, you know, they're looking back at his presidency with fond memories. You know what I mean?
And then ends that pictures with him and Obama. Chummy, so.
Exactly. So these people who pretend, who come on TV and feign this moral outrage because, they can't stand what this one has done or that one has done or Trump has done or whatever. These people sit and knock glasses with guys who, you know, because what they are is it's not real. It's all of these things you see, whatever, once it's on that cable network, bro. Oh, not that network necessarily, but once you're seeing it on cable, it's corporatized and it's meant for almost assume as entertainment. Don't take it as news.
So here this now. So just two more things before we wrap it up. Looking at that, and then looking at Sri Lanka and England. That situation in Sri Lanka, have you been following up on it? I honestly haven't been following up on it. I've been catching real kicks of the kind of violence that's going on.
No, I've been following it. Right.
But was the real reason for it? Or?
Well, the economy of the country has collapsed. Now, some people will blame China because China has kind of caught Sri Lanka in a death trap. A debt trap. Because they loan them a lot of money, like what China's do.
Yeah.
You know, they come in and they give you money to build an airport, and then they know you can't pay it back, and then the airport is owned by China, and then you have essentially no access to that resource in your nation. And they have high debt repayment installments that have to go out to different countries. But they also owe lots of money to private equity companies and other nations. So it's not just China that has them in a vice grip in terms of debt. But also they made some decisions to meet some climate change targets. They had made some changes or enforced some changes with respect to farming, what types of fertilizers the farmers were allowed to use, and other farming techniques that they said were harmful to the environment. The government was kind of forced by companies that were private equity companies like BlackRock, and that would have been loaning money to the government, were kind of imposing these restrictions on them, and they imposed them on the farmers, and it caused big crop cutbacks, right? And that caused food shortages. So that then was followed up with the pandemic, and then they ran out of fuel. So now they don't have fuel school is like done there. Well, it was done for a long while because people just couldn't get fuel to go anywhere, right? So yeah, and eventually it just caused the economy has essentially crumbled. Inflation is skyrocketing, and the people of Sri Lanka are like, we ain't having that. They blame the authorities for it, and they've been letting them know that for quite some time. Like the intense riots started maybe 2.5-3 months ago. So I'm surprised it took this long for it to culminate in what it culminated in now.
But in terms of as far as it reached, or it being, to be honest with you, I thought
the president had already demitted office. I don't know, him and the prime minister was still in office.
Okay.
Because the protests had gotten extremely violent, up to 2.5. When I first got wind of the protest was, I want to say 2 months ago. And from how it was looking, and then they couldn't pay some of the soldiers, so the soldiers weren't necessarily defending,
right?
you know. Yeah. So I thought it would have all come to a head long ago. So when I saw that he was still the president and the prime minister was still the prime minister, I was like, wait, they survived this long? I thought our country had just gone into tatters, had essentially become Yemen by now. I didn't know it was still afloat. So yeah, I know, well, over the weekend, they see what went on when they invade the properties.
Yeah, and them seem to be having a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Hey.
And is a foreshadow, or it could be seen as a foreshadow for countries around the world if these leaders do buck up and continue to play mad. It could reach that level.
Not this one though. I mean, it could reach that level, but I don't think they will do what
Here?
I'm doing. Yeah.
Well, here,
Yeah.
if what happening there happening here, yeah. Dog, I mean, yes, we stupid and we balizy and we rising sun. But what's going on there is a different level, right? That is, and I don't think it'll be allowed to reach to that level because I think we are a little bit brighter than the Sri Lankans,
Yeah.
and we will, no disrespect to Sri Lankan people, but the Sri Lankan government, I think they were too kind of in their own little bubble, and by the time the bubble burst, it was too late. But I don't think they will allow it to reach here. But if what happening there was happening here, bro, people had no food to eat. You know what I mean? Because the people was still in the presidential palace for like 4 or 5. I think they're still there. No?
Yeah.
Because for some of them, it's like they never see a bed like that. So like, right, I chilling here, I living here now. You understand what I'm saying? So I think it could reach like that here. If what's going on over there happens here.
Right, and what went on with Boris? I mean,
well, Boris Johnson has kind of been running on fumes for a while.
for the people who don't know who Boris Johnson is, he still isn't, and he resigned, but he's still
serving as the prime minister.
So the prime minister of
he's resigned as the leader of the Conservative Party, so he's no longer the leader of the. So that position is vacant, but he's still acting as the prime minister until they do an internal election and select a new leader.
Right.
But yes, the UK. He was the prime minister of the. He is the prime minister of the UK.
Right.
England.
So what you're saying now with what happened to him?
Well, he has been disliked. He's kind of been like Trump, right? In the sense that since he took control of the party, people haven't liked him. He presented himself kind of like Trump in the sense that he was going to shake up the whole political system. He's going to actually. Well, first of all, remember he was brought in because the people voted for Brexit, and it seemed like Theresa May
Couldn't make it happen.
was trying to not make it happen, right? And the people and the Conservative Party began to lose elections essentially. Not by elections, but local elections. They started to lose support. The supporters of the Conservative Party were like, hey, listen, we voted for Brexit. This bullshit you all doing here now where you're trying to elongate it and kind of like making, you kind of want to not do it, but stretch it out so long that we forget about it. No. Fuck that. We don't want that. And Theresa May couldn't make it happen, probably because she didn't really want to make it happen. And the Conservative Party realized that they were losing support. So he presented himself as, listen, I am the man that's going to honor what you, the peasants, want. Right? The feeling in the UK is amongst the working class is that, listen, we vote for people and they just don't do what we want them to do. They go about their own, on their own elitist agenda and just say, we'll do this for you. And then when you come into power, you don't do that. So he presented himself as, no, I'm going to do what you want. But all he did in that respect was deliver Brexit. Everything else,
He falls short.
he falls short.
Including having a party during COVID.
Well, to be honest with you, none of that, all of that nonsense, that is what the people, the elitists and the ruling class, the political class, those are the things they use to bring him down, to create scandals.
Right.
But if there was a huge groundswell of support for Boris Johnson in the UK, if he still had the amount of people who liked him when he was nominated to run the party, and when they won the last election, because he wasn't voted in the first time. He took over for Theresa May. But then there was an election and he was given an overwhelming mandate, right? They won seats in areas they never won before or hadn't won for like 50 years. So he was very popular. If he was still that popular, them things wouldn't have been able to bring him down. He would have kind of been like Trump, where you could have had scandal upon scandal upon scandal. It would not matter. But the point is, he didn't have that support. And people didn't feel like, because he was doing things like, still going down with the climate agenda. The UK they're going to see some, and they've already begun to see some stark increases in the prices for the heating and gas, because of certain environmental or environmentalist policies that were enacted by him, which is, it might be neither here nor there about whether we think it's good or bad. But the point is, that's not what people wanted from him.
The thing is, and a lot of these things were done to I don't want to say facilitate, but to kind of in support of I believe big business, because
Right.
one of the things which was not related to him and all his bacchanal, right? But I was watching one of my karting on him, because for the people who don't know, I really love car now, right? And they were saying in England, apparently they wanted to pass this noise pollution law. Well, of course, they have very strict emission laws, and they wanted to pass this noise pollution law now that
Only electric cars.
that it will force out gas cars. It will force out combustion engines, because they say with a combustion engine and just the road, the tire, the noises make with the tire on the road was too much for what they were coming to put in place.
Well, I didn't know that was there, but I don't think that necessarily was for big business. I think that was again going down the whole climate zero emissions targets that they had.
And you don't think it might have been to facilitate certain businesses who, because I mean there are a lot of car companies now who say that, listen, by 2025, the only cars you're going to be putting out that will be electric cars. And obviously you would need people to have an appetite for it. And if they don't have a natural appetite for it,
you're going to force the appetite.
We force it.
Yeah, but but the car companies would make whatever car you want. But if you force them to make electric cars, they'll make electric cars. So I don't think necessarily that policy was put in place to benefit the car companies or the energy companies, because the energy companies that providing the charging stations is the same oil companies, right? So it's not like if anybody's benefiting on it. So but it's really just going on in Holland though. I don't know if you know, but what going on in Holland with the farmers revolting there. Horsey farmers buy a tank. They buy a tank to block the police from coming into the area that they have these food banks that they're creating so that the farmers could kind of store the food. Because what they're trying to do is they're trying to get the government to realize what could happen when you fuck with farmers. So they're storing up the food in these food banks. So to kind of starve out the major cities in Holland to get the government to change. And they buy a tank, dog, like a tank. I don't know. I think they get it from Russia or something. They put a tank. But anyway, the point is, they've been having huge problems, like real issues, big fight, riot in the street, police shooting live rounds at people and things. Because the government putting in these same thing like what they put in Sri Lanka. And in there, they're saying that people what they're really trying to do is they're trying to force the farmers off the land so that big businesses could come in and buy it. Because, like how they say in the States, Bill Gates buying up farmland like you're going crazy. Right. Well, they believe, the conspiracy theory is that this has nothing to do with emissions. It's just they're trying to make it so that the farmers can't farm the land because they're not going to be able to make a profit when they adjust to these new techniques. Then they're going to sell off the land for cheap. And these big businesses are either going to come and do commercial real estate developments on them or farm themselves. Right. But farm on a much...
So end up like, what's the name of the company? It's Fruit and Company or Fruit Company.
What's that?
A company, an American company that went and bought up like real farmland in Guatemala.
Okay.
Right? And make sure things was real bad for them and buy up real plenty of the farmland and I was in control of it. And they were kind of doing the same thing in Colombia at a point as well.
Yeah. Forcing poor people off the land. So, yeah, well, right. So those things might be might be for that, but I don't think that Boris Johnson's actions or the actions of the conservative government over there, and they just are going in search of their net zero goals. And a lot of those things were things that people were not quite fond about. But what they used essentially was the Partygate issue, him when they had lockdowns, he having parties and pictures of him. And the thing is, as most politicians, he would lie. And then there was an MP or some member of the cabinet who was accused of engaging in sexual harassment. And when they asked him about it, he lied and said he didn't know about it before he had appointed him. And then they found some evidence to prove that wasn't true. So all of these things, they kind of, and then Rishi Sunak, who is essentially a finance minister, he resigned, and then Sajid Javid, who was the health minister, he resigned. And then that was when those high profile cabinet members resigned, that's when it became untenable for him to continue. And now he's offered as well. And the same people who resign are going up for leadership of the party. And those same people who are going up for leadership of the party, who said all the, who are now saying all these nasty things about Boris Johnson, you go back like 3 months ago and you could find when the pressure was beginning to mount on him, what about, and they all, praised their political leader. Again, we all know it's not real. Why do people buy into it? All these people, if they're not just all out corrupt, they're just ambitious people who just want power and they want to be in charge. And none of these people have any principles. They don't care about you. They don't care about me.
So I just have one question before we go, boy. So all you can find about 6 proper scandal on Rowley, boy. All the Trinidadians always digging up all kind of thing, boy.
No, but again, remember, the scandal worked because the Boris Johnson had lost a significant amount of support. I don't think even if
you don't think Rowley losing some support,
not enough support for something like what they bring up against Boris Johnson for that to bring him down. No way, no how. No way, no how. It had to be some like a serious scandal, like rape or something like that. But it can't be, well, he was lying and you're supposed to be, you had lockdown, but you had a party and, that bullshit wouldn't fly.
Well, let's figure something out now. I hope Penelope to get a chance, but I will see what that would be like. See what that would be like with Penelope as the Prime Minister.
I have no interest in any of it.
I mean, I want to see, as it stands right now, I cannot pick up myself and migrate, right? Well, legally at least.
You can, but you just don't want to go there.
Well, legally?
Yeah. You could get a skill certificate and go Grenada. Go to a CARICOM jurisdiction. Yeah, you get.
But you get your skill certificate? Yeah?
I no, but I cancel the application.
Oh, but I remember you was waiting a while.
Yeah, but I cancel the application eventually. Yeah, but you could get it.
Well, let me go and get it now.
And go where?
I don't know. You go and see.
But you could go and see without the skill certificate.
Right? We go and see and work out. I don't just see the country.
No, but what I'm saying is you could go and scout for work and then if you get the work, you apply for the skill certificate.
Yeah, but then if it take 2 years to get the skill certificate, so better we try now. Start the process.
I don't want to pick up. If there's an opportunity in another CARICOM jurisdiction, I have no problem going. My issue is whether there are opportunities. And I don't need to go there to find out.
They don't want you, I mean, I want to see.
Right, yeah, but I live in here.
And the nice thing about them places still at a stage where I really like your vibe, but come on work for me. Them places still there now, boy.
And
they don't have no software checking to see if you have 72 million degrees and thing they, before they could even call it.
I think the issue would be, you not from here, I not hiring you.
No, that hasn't been my experience. I mean, my best.
Well, you talking about DJing and thing. That's a different story. But any corporate, just like in Tobago, bro. In Tobago, there's coastal higher Trinidadians, Yeah, because they see that you coming and taking a walk. You try to go and get any sort of regular corporate job in
well, you go as a radio personality.
Well, I mean, you could do that. You could do
it too. You was a radio personality too.
No. But what I mean is one of the terms. One of the you could get a skill certificate if you have a degree or if you're media personnel, if you're whatever, right? So you can qualify for a skill certificate. Is the point I'm making. But but what I'm saying is I don't need to go over there to find out if there's an opportunity. I can scout and find out if there's an opportunity.
Nah, that's what I'm telling you. No, you could reach it and you could say, nah, I really like your vibe. I really like it. What we gonna do? Like we something.
Listen to me. That could happen here. What I go do? I don't have money to go and sit down and idle in Grenada or St. Lucia or Antigua for 6 months trying to talk to people and see what work I can get. I don't have that kind of paper. I don't have that kind of time and paper. And I have family too. I can't just go to Gawkers and just sit down. So my thing is, you could explore opportunities. You could talk to people, make connections, and if an opportunity presents itself. Then, because there's an expedited process, I think if you have a job offer in hand, there's an expedited process for the skill certificate. So yeah, once you get it in hand, you're good to go. But you need to get the opportunity first, otherwise. But yes, you can legally migrate if you're one of those small islands you want to go to. You can legally migrate, and I think both of us have the opportunity to, apart from the skill certificate, because we have at least one parent that wasn't born here and was born in one of those territories.
Yeah, but I don't know if I want to go to somebody. I don't know if... I don't know if they had the money to support my bad ways. I don't know. You understand?
I've never been, so I have no idea.
Neither me, but from the outside, it looked like they had the money to support my bad ways. Just saying.
Dr. Skinny.
Right? Yeah, but this is where we wrap it up. But as I say, I mean, while we're here, I just want to see a couple of things change and get a vibe and see if Penelope on the inside, if things might change up a little bit, if we get a different vibe, you know?
I'm glad you're interested. I'm not.
Yeah, I want to see that. That's what I want to see, to be real honest with you.
All
You
right.
see, our next reason to get more vote, if, Penelope is the head of the PNM, then,
Well, Dr. Rowley said that he's stepping down, so
but he's a politician, and them just like, so,
I listen, as I say, I have no interest in it, so I'm just trying to see how I could contribute to your little conundrum here. Because as I say, to me, whatever to make a difference, whoever there, that them business, not mine.
Yeah, so let me see how it goes. But that's this week's episode. Thanks for viewing. Thanks for watching. If you made it this far, hey, much respect, much love. We appreciate it. We appreciate you. And remember to head across. Well, if you're on Apple Podcasts, make sure and give it a rating. If you're on Spotify, wherever it is, if you could give it a rating, give it a rating. And if you're on YouTube, hit the thumbs up if you enjoy the conversation. Well, if you just clearly enjoy the conversation. So, I mean, the least you could do is just hit the thumbs up. Right? So, we out. Have a wonderful one. Have a safe one. Anything coming up this week? Nah, this week safe.
Like what, right?
I don't know. Anything, any party, anything.
No horse.
You ain't going to party, nothing.
Boy, nobody. You know, normally at the end of the podcast, members plug the events and things.
Yeah.
I don't know events to plug. I'm not a stand-up comedian.
Well,
I don't have speaking engagements.
Boy, right now,
And I certainly don't play no party.
today, we recording on the 12th is Prime Day, and tomorrow is Prime Day. So I asked my wife to.
What are you talking about?
Amazon Prime Day. So I asked my wife to buy some fire sticks for me to sell. Yeah.
Okay, right. So now you're gonna plug that.
So soon we have fire sticks on sale.
All right.
Look out for that shit. Anyway, yeah, we going.